Question 1. So we've got to solve this equation. So first thing we do is multiply out the brackets. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times minus 1 is minus 3. Now we gather all our x's on one side, so I'm going to take them to the left hand side. So I'm going to choose to take away 3x from both sides. On the left that leaves me with 2x minus 6. And on the right that leaves me with the minus 3. So I've now got all my x's on the left. I need all my normal numbers on the right. So I need to undo this minus 6 by choosing to add 6 to both sides. Adding 6 to both sides, I get 2x equaling 3. Divide both sides by 2, I get x being 3 over 2, which is 1.5. Question 2. So I start off by working out what the profit is. So to work out the profit, I need to have my total sales value and take away my costs. So how much money did I make? Well, I sold my 12 bottles at 50p each. It's 50p's £0.50. So that 12 of those brings in £6. So the profit I make is the £6 that I took, take away my costs of £5.64, which is £0.36, 36p. So now, to get my percentage profit, I have to divide the profits by the costs. So working in pounds, I've got to divide 0.36 by 5.64 and multiply this by 100 to turn it into a percent, giving me 6.38 ... so 6.4% to one decimal place. If you've been doing it in pennies, you would have had 36 divided by 564 multiplied by 100, which would of course given you the same result. Question 3. So we've got 8 points equally spaced on the circumference of the circle. Well, we know the total length of the circumference is pi times diameter. We're told the diameter is 80 meters. So the total length walking all the way around the circle is pi times 80, which is 80 pi. Now these points are spaced equally and there are 8 spaces. So how far apart are they going to be? Well, that's going to be our 80 pi divided by 8, which is 10 pi. Now that would have been fine as a final answer. They don't specify how they want the final answer, so it's your choice. I've gone to 31.4 to one decimal place. Now for part B, the points have all been moved around, but we're being asked, has the mean distance walked changed? Well, no, it won't have done. The total distance is still going to be all the way around the shape, so all of the individual distances added together will still come to your 80 pi. Then we're still dividing that between the 8 spaces, so we're still going to get the same mean average. So the total distance and the number of points are unchanged, so no, the mean will be unchanged. So question 4. There are only blue cubes, yellow cubes and green cubes in a bag, and then we're given some information about all these cubes. Now with one of these, I think it's easier to construct and solve an equation, so kick off by making x the smallest number of cubes. So reading through the information, we can see the smallest number is going to be the number of yellow cubes. So let's choose to make the number of yellow cubes x. Now the blue cubes has twice as many as yellow. So if yellow is x, blue's going to be 2x. And then we're told 4 times as many green as blue. So 4 times as many as the blue ones. So 4 lots of the 2x, which is 8x. Now what do we know about these probabilities? We know all the probabilities must add up to 1, must add up to a whole. So x plus 2x plus 8x must equal 1. So 11x equals 1. Dividing through by 11, we can see x equals 1/11th, and x is the probability of taking a yellow cube. So the probability of taking a yellow cube is 1/11th. Question 5. So using tracing paper, draw around the shape T and do an arrow pointing up, I would suggest. And the center of rotation is the origin, so put the pencil point on 0. Swivel the tracing paper around until the arrow is now pointing downwards, and the shape will be up here. So just press through the tracing paper, and then once you've removed the tracing paper, just draw over the indentation, and then I would suggest you just double check using the tracing paper. So shape A will be up here. Now for part B, we're translating this shape by the vector -1, -3. Well, the -1 on top means we're moving 1 to the left, and the -3 on the bottom means we're moving 3 down. So each of the points is moving 1 to the left and 3 down. So I've focused on this bottom right hand point, moving that 1 to the left and 3 down. That point shifts to there, so then I can just pop in my shape accordingly. Remember, translation just means a shift. Question 6. So part A, the index laws. When we're multiplying, we add the powers. So 3 plus x has got to equal 9, so x is 6. Now when we have one of these where we have a power inside the bracket and a power outside the bracket, we multiply these powers together. So we know 2 times y has got to equal the power of 10, so y equals 5. Now part C, what we need to do here is to appreciate that 100 is 10 squared, so it's 10 squared to the power of A. Equally, we need to appreciate that 1000 is 10 cubed, so this is 10 cubed to the power of B, and that multiplying them together, we've been told, can be written in the form of 10 to the power of W. Now, just really combining A and B up here, when we've got a power inside the bracket and outside the bracket, we multiply them. So we have 2A here and 3B here. And like as in part A, when we're multiplying, we add the powers. So 2A plus 3B has to equal W, as we were required to show. Question 7. So a bit of problem solving needs to go on here. At the end of the day, we've got to work out the size of the angle CDA. So this angle up here, which I've called X. Now we're going to use trigonometry on this triangle to work out the angle. So we're going to need to know the base of this right angled triangle. So I've just popped in this perpendicular here and calling this point F. So I'm going to be using the triangle CFD. Excuse me. So I need to know both the opposite side and the adjacent side. I'm not going to be able to work out this length. Now the opposite side CF is easy enough. That's going to be another 6. But I need a way of working out this length DF, which I'll later find out to be 9.5. Now how can I work that out? Well, I know this length here from a point that I'm calling E to F. Question 8. So I think this is fairly straightforward, especially if you choose to use this fractions button, which is typically about 3 down on the left hand side in your calculator. So do a big square root sign and then press the fractions button. Make sure you put sin 25 plus sin 40 into the top, the numerator parts. Use the arrow key to go down to the denominator and put in cos 25 minus cos 40, and you will see that you get 2.75603,957, which is to 2 decimal places 2.76. Remember, you look at the next digit. If that's 5 or above, you round up. So this to 2 decimal places is 2.76. Question 9. So yesterday it took 5 cleaners 4.5 hours each to clean all the rooms. So how many hours in total did it take? 5 times 4.5, which is 22.5 hours. Now this amount of cleaning today is being spread across 3 cleaners. So 22.5 divided by 3 means each of the cleaners will work 7.5 hours. Now we are told that they're paid $8.20 for each hour or part of an hour. So the 7.5 hours each of them is going to each works is really being rounded up to 8 hours worth of pay. So 8 hours worth at £8.20 each means each cleaner will be paid £65.60 today. Question 10. So between which times does the car travel at its greatest speed? Well, it's travelling at its greatest speed when we have the greatest slope, the greatest gradient, and that is between 0 and 20. We can see it's steepest here compared to here and where it's flat up there. Now work out this greatest speed. How do you work out the gradient of a straight line? Well, you divide the y step, the amount up, by the x step, the amount across. So the height is 360 divided by the base of 20, giving us 18 meters per second. Question 11. Well, the significant point here is that these pie charts are drawn accurately. and the ratio is proportional to the areas of the pie chart. The areas of the pie chart. Now you can't particularly see this from this slide, but if you were measuring these diagrams in the paper itself, you would see that the radius of the Adley pie chart is 5 centimeters and of the Bridford is 4 centimeters. So the area, remember an area of a circle is pi r squared, for Adley is going to be pi times 5 squared, which is 25 pi. For Bidford it's going to be pi times 4 squared, which is 16 pi. The total area overall is these two added together, which is 41 pi. So what proportion of the total area is Adley? Well, it's 25. Question 12. Well, we've got to work out the size of the angle STR, S to T to R, so this little angle up here, which I've called X. Now, RS and ST are two sides of a regular 12-sided polygon. So the first thing we can say is that RS and ST are the same length. So we have an isosceles triangle. So these two base angles, which I'm calling X, are going to be equal. So, what do we know about a regular 12-sided polygon? Well, exterior angles always total 360. So if we're spreading this across 12 sides, across 12 exterior angles, each of the exterior angles of a 12-sided polygon would be 30 degrees. Now, an interior angle plus an exterior equals 180. So if each exterior is 30, each interior is going to be 180, take away 30, which is 150 degrees. So this angle up here, RST, is 150 degrees. Now remember, this is an isosceles triangle, base angles are equal. Angles in a triangle add up to 180, so we know that we've got 30 degrees left over to spread equally over these two base angles. So X, angle STR, must be 30 divided by 2, which is 50. Question 13. So, at the beginning of 2009, Mr. Veal bought the company, and we've got to calculate the value of the company at the beginning of 2017. So that's 8 years later. So, sort of using the quick way, the amount invested is 50,000 multiplied by a multiplier. Well, given that the price increase each year is 2%, a multiplier is going to be 1.02. And this multiplier is to the power of 8, being the number of years to which we're applying this multiplier. So pop this into your calculator and you get 58,582.97. So to the nearest £100, that is 58,600. Now part B, different company. We're investing £250,000. 6 years later, so the power is 6. The company has increased to £325,000, and I need to work out the multiplier, so which I'm going to call 1.0x, because it's the x number here that represents the percentage increase. So dividing through by 250,000, I get 1.0x to the power of 6 being 1.3. Now I need to undo this to the power of 6. So I'm actually going to take the 6th root of both sides. So I get 1.0x being 1.3 to the power of a 6th. This is 1 over 6. It's not hugely clear there. 1 over 6. Popping 1.3 to the power of a 6th into my calculator, I get 1.04469 ... being my multiplier. So focusing on this component here after the 0, my percentage increase is 4.469%, which to two significant figures is 4.5%, being the percentage increase each year. Question 14. So to shade the region, I'm going to first of all have to draw the straight lines underpinning these inequalities. So I want to draw the line y equals 1, the line x plus y equals 5, and the line y equals 2x. Now these are all straight lines, so I just need a couple of points on each of these lines. So y equals 1, be careful, I just need all the points where the y coordinate equals 1, for example 0, 1 or 1, 1. So y equaling 1 is this vertical line through 1. Now x plus y equaling 5, again just think of a couple of values where x and y together would add up to 5. For example, the coordinates 5, 0 or 0, 5. 0, 5, 5, 0. So my straight line goes through those points. So that purple line is the line x plus y equals 5. And thirdly, I need my y coordinates to be two lots of the x coordinates, for example 0, 0 and 1, 2. So this pink line here is my line y equals 2x. Well, you're almost bound to then find that your region R is going to be the trapped angle, because otherwise it would just go on forever. So it's going to be here, but just double check. And these points, yes, y is greater than 1, yes, x plus y is less than 5, and yes, the y coordinate is greater than 2x. So that region there that I've shaded in black is my region R. Question 15. So part A, is Tracy correct when she wants to add the 8 and the 7? No, she isn't. To get the total number of possible combinations, you need to multiply the 8 and the 7. So there are 56 different ways you could combine a main course with a dessert. Now for part B, I'm just sort of gathering my thoughts here, pretending I was just going to complete a chart where I had the 12 combinations across the top, the 12 teams across the top, the 12 teams going down the side, and I was just doing just seeing where all the teams play each other. So in theory, 12 teams along the top, 12 teams down the side, and each of these is sort of the various combinations. So 12 12s, there would be 144 ways you could play each other, but of course team 1 can't play against team 2. Team 1 can't play against Team 1, Team 2 can't play against Team 2, and so on. So that's immediately going to take away 12 possible combinations. So I've got my 144 taking away 12 means there's 132 combinations. But think about it, this really sort of includes the home and away legs. This would be Team 1 playing Team 2 here, and also Team 1 playing Team 2 here. So all of the, if you were playing home and away, then there would be 132 games being played, but given each team plays each team only exactly once, you've got to halve the number of combinations. So we halve this 132 to get 66 combinations. Question 16. So there is actually quite a quick way of doing this. If you choose to square root both sides first of all, we get x minus 2 being plus or minus the square root of 3. Remember, there's two solutions to the square root of 3, because there are two numbers that when you multiply it by itself gives you 3. It's plus root 3, but also minus root 3. And it's because of this plus or minus that we're going to get two solutions. And again, exam technique, it says give your solutions plural. So make sure you circle that S to remind yourself that there's going to be more than one solution. So anyway, when I square roots, I get x minus 2 equaling plus or minus root 3. You then choose to add 2 to both sides to make x the subject. So x is 2 plus or minus root 3. So putting both of these possibilities into my calculator, first of all I've done 2 take away root 3, giving me 0.2679 ... And secondly I've done 2 added to root 3, giving me 3.7320 ... So each of these to three significant figures is 0.268 and 3.73. Question 17, so I need to draw a histogram for this information. So the height is going to be the base of all of these rectangles. So height is going to be my x-axis, and my frequency density is going to be my height. I should actually have written frequency density in here. Sorry, I forgot. So these heights are going to be the bases of all my rectangles. So my first base is going to go from 140 to 150, a length of 10. Then 150 to 155 is giving me a base of 5, another 5, another 5, and a 15. So those numbers there represents the base of all the rectangles that are going to come in a bit. Now remember, the key bit with histograms, frequency represents the area of each of these bar charts, of each of these rectangles. Frequency is the area. Now, how do you work out the area of a rectangle? It's base times height. So if we've got the area here and the base here, the heights of all of these rectangles is going to be the frequency, the area, divided by the base to give you a height column. So I've done 15 divided by 10, giving me the 1.5. 30 divided by 5 giving me the 6.0, and so on. So I have got these 5 heights. Now bearing these heights in mind, my biggest height is 10.2. I've gone and got my heights. I've gone and effectively used this axis here, trying to fill this graph paper as much as possible, and I've made every 5 squares equal to 1. So so that nicely uses the graph paper. Similarly with my base, I've gone from 140 to 180. Again, that's nicely using most of the graph paper. So once I've done that, I just got to draw in my various bars. So the first one's got a base of 10, a height of 1.5, 10, 1.5. Then my next bar goes from 150 to 155, a base of 5, a height of 6.0, and so on. So these are my various bars. Question 18. So we're told at the end of every hour there is 2% less water in the tank than at the start of the hour. So what's going to be our multiplier? What do we multiply our starting amount of water by in order to work out what we've got at the end of the hour? Well, if we've got 2% less water than at the start of the hour, we need to multiply by 0.98. 100% take away our 2% is 98%, giving us a multiplier of 0.98. Every single hour, the water that we've got at the beginning of the hour, if you multiply that by 0.98, that would tell you the amount of water you've got at the end of the hour. Question 19. So a diagram will help us gather our thoughts here. So I've drawn on the points P, Q and R. Now we've got to prove that MN is parallel to PR. So let's work out the two vectors, the vectors MN and PR. Well, going from P to R, we're going from an x coordinate of -3 to +5, so that's 8 along the corridor. So our 8. And then up the stairs we're going from -6 to -2, which is 4 up the stairs. So the vector PR is 8, 4. Now in order to do the vector from M to N, we are of course going to need to know the coordinates of M and N. Now M is the midpoint of P and Q. So how do you work out a midpoint? You average the x coordinates and average the y coordinates. So for M it's -3 plus 1 divided by 2. -6 plus 4 divided by 2, giving us the coordinate -1, -1. Same for N. N is halfway between Q and S, so we average 1 and 5, and we average 4 and -2, giving us N's coordinate of 3, 1. So going from M to N, well, we're going from the x coordinates going from -1 to 3, which is +4. Question 20. So we've got to calculate the area of the shaded region. Now to do that, we're going to work out the area of the kite OABC and then take away the area of the sector OAC. So concentrating on the kite, the OABC, first thing to take on board is that as BA and BCs are tangents to the circle, the angle BAO is a right angle, and the angle BCO is also a right angle. Now if I go and break it into two triangles which are similar by putting the line down to B to O, we can see that BAO is a right angle triangle. This angle is 60 degrees, this length is 10. So using SOHCAHTOA, I can say tan 60 equals my opposite side, which is AB, divided by my adjacent side, which is 10. So tan 60 equals AB over 10. Multiplying both sides by 10, I can see that AB is 10 tan 60, which is 10 root 3. So that length AB is 10 root 3. So looking at the triangle BAO, area of a triangle is half times base times height, so half times 10 root 3. Given me 50 root 3. So this triangle has got an area of 50 root 3, so does this triangle over here. So the area of the kite OABC is 100 root 3. Question 21. So I've got 12 counters in a bag, equal numbers of red, blue and yellow. So therefore, I've got 4 red, 4 blue, 4 yellow. Probability of taking 3 red counters. So I've got to take a red and then another red and then another red. So with my first pick, the chance of a red is 4 out of 12. With my second pick, obviously one of the reds is now gone. So there are 3 reds left out of 11. So times 3 out of 11. And with my third pick, now only 2 reds left, 2 out of 10. So the probability of taking 3 red counters is this times this times this, which simplifies to 1 over 55. That's my final answer. I've just noted what it is as a decimal to help me in part B in a minute. Now, I'm told some more counters are put into the bag. Still an equal number of red, blue and yellow. And I'm being asked, is it now more likely or less likely that 3 counters will be red? And I need to show how I get my answer. So, just got to show it. I don't have to prove it, just got to show it. So let's just do a simple example. Let's say we put 1 more red, 1 more blue and 1 more yellow in. So I've now got 15 counters. My first pick getting a red is 5 out of 15, then 4 out of 14, then 3 out of 13. Multiplying that across, I get 60 over 2730, which is a decimal, is 0.021. ... So I can see question 22. So I've been given 2 facts here. Each of them is going to allow me to form an equation, and then I can solve a simultaneous equation to work out what A and B is. So first fact is that g of 3 is 20. So when I pop 3 into the g function, I get 20. So popping 3 into the g function, I get 3a plus b equaling 20. So quite a simple one there. That is my equation number 1 that I'm going to come back to shortly. Now my second fact is that the inverse function, when I put 33 into this, the inverse function, that equals 1 going into the g function. So I'm going to be dealing with the inverse of f function. So I need to work out what the inverse function of f is. So we need to change the subject. So let's just set it up with y equaling 5x plus 3 and rearrange this to make x the subject. So taking away 3 from both sides, dividing by 5, I get x equaling y minus 3 over 5. Now this is just helped me change the subject. Remember, y is just something I've introduced. So my inverse function for f is x minus 3 over 5. So that is my inverse function for f. Now let's see what we get when we substitute 33 into this. So 33 into my inverse function for f gives me 33 take away 3, which is 30, divided by 5, which is 6. So that I know this left hand side equals 6, and that equals g of 1. So when I put 1 into the g function, this also equals 6. So putting 1 into the g function, I get a plus b. So my second equation is that a plus b equals 6. So my equation 1, 3a plus b equals 20. My equation 2, a plus b equals 6. 2 equations, 2 unknowns, so I can just solve this simultaneous equation. So choose to take away equation 2 from equation 1. I get 2a equaling 14. So a equals 7. Substituting this 7 into equation 2, I can see that b must therefore be minus 1. So, question 23. S is a geometric sequence. Now remember what a geometric sequence means. It means you take your first term and then you multiply it by something, let's say by r, to get our second term. Then you multiply it by r again to get your third term, and so on. Now what we can see with this is if you consider the second term divided by the first term, you get r. But also the third term divided by the second term would equal r. So the second over the first equals the third over the second because they both equal r. So we can say that 1 divided by root x minus 1, second term divided by the first, is the same thing as our third term divided by our second, our root x plus 1 over 1. So this is our starting point. Now this is fairly straightforward to solve. Multiply both sides by root x minus 1, giving me this. Multiply out the pair of brackets, I get x minus root x plus root x minus 1. The middle two terms cancel. Add 1 to both sides, I get x equaling 2. Now for part B, I've been asked to show what the fifth term is. Now the fifth term is going to be whatever the third term is multiplied by r squared. And there are other ways to do it, but I think this is probably the easiest way. Now the third term I know is root x plus 1, x is 2, so root 2 plus 1. And then I'm going to multiply that by r and multiply it by r again. So r is root 2 plus 1. So I'm multiplying it by root 2 plus 1 and then multiplying it by root 2 plus 1 again. So multiplying out this second pair of brackets, I get this, which simplifies to 3 plus 2 root 2. Then multiplying out this pair of brackets, I get this, which simplifies to my 7 plus 5 root 2.